Hey, Papa, what you playing?
Oh, I'm playing Decay of Logos right now. I've died 732 times facing this boss, but this is my 733, so I think I got it this time.
Oh, that's fine, Papa, but I have a question. Why are you still wearing those clothes?
Cause it's my signature style. It's the same reason why you always wear that plaid shirt. Wait, what are you wearing?
Man, it's summertime, Papa. You should be dressing for the occasion. Man, you should be going outside and socializing. Really?
No, I'm not going outside. There's people out there and I don't want to socialize.
And what's wrong with that, Papa? Maybe you can meet somebody who likes to play video games like you. You never know, Papa. Comprende?
Yeah, I don't really have time for that. I just want to... What the hell just happened?
And now look at your feet too.
Ay, chancletas.
Exactly, Papa. Now you're ready to do the review. Hey, God bless you. Have a good one.
This is Decay of Logos. Cue the montage. For the many Dark Souls-y games out there, Decay of Logos was one of the few that actually piqued my interest. It has been heralded as Dark Souls meets Breath of the Wild. That sounds pretty freaking awesome if you ask me, taking the excellent Souls combat coupled with the world and aesthetic of Breath of the Wild. This has incredible potential to be amazing. And as a disclaimer, I did receive a free code from Rising Star Games. Why they would give a code to somebody like me, a channel like mine, who knows? Either way, I would like to sincerely thank them nonetheless. However, I will be as fair and honest as possible. In Decay of Logos, you play as Ada, a female who finds her village being burned down. She is accompanied by her mystical elk companion as they travel north to find out who or what is responsible for this calamity. After the village scene, you're thrown right into the beginning of the adventure with only a basic sword to arm yourself. If you've played any of the Dark Souls games, you'll feel right at home with your health and stamina bar, the controls, the camera angles, the way you lock onto enemies, and much more. Regarding the combat, I found it to be slower paced, akin to Lords of the Fallen and the first Dark Souls. After playing games like Neo and Dark Souls 3, it was a bit of an adjustment for me. It came off as jarring considering how fast Ada was in the trailer, especially seeing her use her slide ability. However, slower paced combat isn't necessarily a bad thing. So, did Decay of Logos execute it correctly? Short answer, it's okay, but could be better. Long answer, let's start with the positives. There are a nice variety of weapons to play around with, all providing its own unique feel. While melee combat is the main focus, the game does feature ranged combat and magic. More on magic later. For the negatives, there are several. Ada does not feel very nimble as she should. Her dodge is very stiff and she runs out of stamina very fast, even with smaller weapons. Heavier weapons also lack in weight on contact. Many times the enemy will get hit and phase through attacks. It's almost as if they poise through anything. And if anything knows about the art of poise, it's my boy 50 Blades of Grey. Shout out to 50 Blades of Grey, go watch his stuff, but wait till after the video. There's also some really bad level scaling going on here. Once you reach certain milestones in the game, the same enemies become much more difficult. All of a sudden, enemies that you were able to clear out in 2 or 3 hits take 8 or 9. This doesn't do anything but infuriate me and artificially increases the difficulty. As expected, it also shares a lot of similarities with Breath of the Wild, specifically in its aesthetics and open world. There are so many secrets to discover and treasure to find. The game especially does a great job in world building. It's surrounded by so much mystery with a decent cast of characters, all who may not be entirely what they seem. The atmosphere also provides a great sense of loneliness and isolationism, as it's only you and your elk friend exploring the world together. As you travel, you'll come across sanctuaries and rest sites that act as checkpoints, the latter of which allows you to rest and recuperate your stats. Resting is something you'll need to do, as if you neglect your sleep, you'll be very fatigued and will struggle to perform basic tasks like running for how weak you become. Sometimes when you rest, you can be ambushed by a group of enemies. You'll need to clear them out before you can rest again. This is a nice touch as it enhances the sense of danger and dread Decay of Logos has. As interesting as the world can be, however, traveling it poses some issues. First off, there is no fast travel. you'll need to travel back on either foot or elk. The world isn't too massive, but it's still an inconvenience to run into the same enemies you've already beaten before. Side note here, but traveling on elk, let's just say the controls take some time to get used to. You'll need to be careful on how you steer the elk, or else this will happen. But enough about the similarities and what it does similar to other games. What about the differences? What makes Decay of Logos stand out? Because at the end of the day, what differentiates yourself and makes yourself unique is the mark of a true professional. The biggest difference from those games is having a mystical elk as your companion. I was getting Shadow of the Colossus vibes with this one. At first, he's a bit of a pain, only letting you ride him if you feed him some berries. And even then, you gotta make sure he doesn't get too stressed out. But eventually, you become closer with the mythical fellow and he will help you out in combat. It's pretty badass being surrounded by multiple enemies and your elk companion coming in to your rescue. I mean, honestly, in these moments, I just want to give him a big hug. But then I realized that he's not real and I end up feeling lonely.
Man, if you want a hug, Papa, I could just give you one.
No, we're good, thank you.
Okay, suit yourself.
Although I couldn't fully understand the way this works, he seems to only spring into action after a significant amount of danger is present. Most times he will do his own thing and roam the area freely. Also, I am disappointed to report that you cannot shoot from horseback, or elkback in this case. Not sure if this can be patched in, but I would like for it to be a possibility. And now let's talk magic. Playing this, I was very curious about how it will be implemented. You rescue this bird-looking fellow and he agrees to show you what he knows. And when I finally learned how to use my first spell, it was Lumina? A freaking spell to light dark areas? With all the cool spells I can learn, why would I start off with Lumina? I can just light up a torch and that can light my way. Why would I need a spell to do that? Heck, why can't I do the Witcher 3 thing like I saw in the trailer? That thing was freaking cool. That's the good stuff.
I mean, that's your problem, Papa. You can never see the potential, and that's because you lack patience. Comprende? If you want to be the best, you gotta start from the beginning.
Yeah, fair enough. As you play, you'll get more useful spells. I especially found the flame spell to be incredibly useful, especially for boss battles. Speaking of boss battles, they are a mixed bag. Many are easily telegraphed and aren't very memorable. Some took quite a few tries to beat, while many others were just one and done. They feel more like mini bosses rather than actual tough challenges. And speaking of challenges, this game is freaking brutal when you first start. Even minuscule enemies can take you out if you're not careful enough. It's supposed to simulate Ada's lack of combat experience and how unprepared she is against the world. After the beginning stage, it peters out and becomes much easier. I gotta be honest, I'm not sure how to feel about this one. On one hand, it's always cool seeing yourself get stronger and better as the game progresses. However, to front load the difficulty as a way to achieve this, I'm not so sure that was the best course of action. Okay, I get it. This game isn't supposed to be for everyone. It's a game that rewards you for putting time and effort into it, like Dark Souls and many other great games. It has a barrier for entry, but there's a strict difference between a wooden barrier and a steel freaking wall, and Decay of Logos has the latter one. Even after you get through the tough beginning, you'll end up in situations where you'll be confused on what to do or where to go next. For one in particular, I knew what I needed to do, but I had no idea what direction I needed to travel in. It can ultimately be frustrating at what to do or where to go next. The limited inventory will also pose an issue for you, as you can only carry a small and large weapon equipped and one item to store away. You can circumvent this by using your elk friend as a pack mule, but even this has limitations as he can only carry one of each kind of item. So if you end up finding two bracers, he will only be able to store one away. I also did run across a ton of glitches and bugs that just overall hampered and ruined the experience. However, I've heard from the developers that this stuff will be patched on day one. Overall, Decay of Logos is a mixed bag. Unfortunately, it didn't live up to my expectations of being this amazing concoction of Dark Souls meets Breath of the Wild. It is played with very odd design decisions in all areas that take me out of the experience. Simply put, it lacks polish in many areas. However, there are things done right. The combat can be enjoyable at times, the loot you find is pretty awesome, the story and the world are interesting and full of intrigue, Ada and her elk are awesome, and the characters you meet are memorable. Overall, I can give it a slight recommendation. If you are curious about it, go ahead and check it out. I'm not going to stop you. If you're looking for a better Souls experience, I would recommend Neo for you. If you're looking for a better Breath of the Wild experience, just go play Breath of the Wild or wait for the sequel to come out later this year. If there's one thing I can say about Decay of Logos is that it taught me about perseverance. Always fight forward for the next thing. Always carry on. Always trudge on. You know what? I'm ready to face my fears. I am going to do what I thought was impossible. I'm going to go outside and actually make some friends. Thank you guys for watching as always, and this is Pow3rh0use signing off.